So today I want to talk about fathers' rights and the family courts and what's going on in the world today, especially in the United States and especially in Ohio. Um, the family is the basic unit of this country. I mean, you really can't get any smaller of it. When you break it down, and if the basic unit, the foundation, if you will, of this country is broken, um, a country can't run. If your foundation is busted, and a lot of times what I see and the system is actually created. It profits and it's designed to split families apart. For example, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but right now fathers have absolutely no rights to their children if they are unmarried, unless they file for them. So even if you are in a relationship with the person that you have a child with, the father has absolutely no rights. Mother is sole custodian, and the only way for the father to establish his rights as a parent is to go to court and file for custody and fight for his rights, fight to prove himself that he's a fit parent. And immediately now, when you do that, when you file to fight for your rights as a father, you're putting you and your kid's mom on opposing sides. So it automatically, whether you guys are happy or not, that's going to create a barrier between you, because you're going to be sitting on opposite sides of the courtroom unless you're walking in and going into mediation and signing paperwork, which normally never happens. You're going to be pitted against each other, and that can be very stressful on a relationship. Um, for one, we live in America. We live in the United States. We're all created equal: man, woman, black, white, gay, straight. This is the land of freedom and equality. And I don't personally think that I have shit to prove to any court. My rights as a father are God given. They come from a higher power. It's a fundamental right. So the concept of fighting for something that should be fundamental and God given it blows my mind. I don't have shit to prove to you. I'm the father. If you want, and how I honestly think that it should be, I think when children are born, they need to set up a process where you sign some papers, and both mother and father are on equal footing, equal time. That way, in case of a breakup, whether they're together or not, it should be equal the day the child is born. And then, if dad or mom is addicted to drugs, or if they have histories of domestic violence, then that's when the court steps in, and that's when you step into court and say, hey, this is what the other parent's going through, or this is what's wrong with the other parent. And instead of pushing that parent out or making one have more power than the other, or losing rights or whatever, start focusing on treatment. If you're going through a drug problem, start helping that other person so that they can be part of their child's life. If they have histories of domestic violence, and going to either couples counseling or anger management, and seeking treatment for that person. Obviously, if you're a sex offender and you touch kids, you can fucking rot in a hole. But only under extreme circumstances should these fundamental rights be infringed upon. You know, it's as fundamental as your right to free speech, and yet dads get trampled on all the time in court. You know, I've gone through my own custody battle. In 2015, my daughter was born, and me and my kid's mom were together, and we weren't really good with each other, and I acknowledge that. Maybe I wasn't the best boyfriend. I definitely wasn't the best boyfriend. You know, but what really broke us apart was I remember talking to her and telling her that you know, we were always fighting, even when we were together. That I didn't get to see Lena enough. Lena's my daughter. She's 5 years old right now, and I told her I was going to file for shared parenting. To establish my equal rights as a dad. And I remember her saying that, well, if you do that, we're done. I don't want to get the courts involved. And that kind of fucked my head up a little bit, because, you know, I knew I had no rights. I knew I had nothing. And it made me realize that with her particularly, everything was about power and control. You know, if the courts step in and they say, hey, you know, these are the days that he gets his kid, these are the rights he has a say, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have that power and control that she has. And I was noticing that a lot of the arguments that we were having, she would be like, okay, well, you're just not going to see your daughter tomorrow. You're not going to, I don't want you seeing Lena. And that was her bargaining chip to get what she wanted. And we got into a pretty ugly custody battle, and, you know, she used my daughter so many times to kind of get her way in arguments, and which, I don't know if you've been through a custody battle before, but it is the most hurtful and painful and frustrating thing that a parent can go through. And I didn't handle it correctly. You know, I lashed out, I fought, and I threatened her, and, you know, it ended up, you know, me getting the police getting involved in our situation, and me catching some, you know, menacing charges or whatever, threatening domestic violence, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, had I been treated equally and not discriminated against, and had my fundamental rights, and I had to fight for something that should be basic, none of that would have happened. You know, I've been going through my custody battle for 5 years, and, you know, I've had my wins and I've had my losses. Everything was going pretty good, you know, even after the initial, you know, criminal allegations that were made against me from her, that I threatened her, which I did threaten her. I was just so angry and hurt. You know, I didn't know how to handle it. Everything was going good up until, you see, I was living in Garfield. Well, I moved to Garfield in with my girlfriend. We were dating for a couple years, and we moved in together, and then I had about an equal time schedule. Court was about to finalize, and we were, you know, going to have our final hearing and everything. And then I moved to Elyria, and within a week of me moving to Elyria, my kid's mom, she filed for emergency custody on the allegation that I had moved without updating my address with the court. After a week, not even, my stuff was still in boxes at this point. And now going back to that the threatening domestic violence that I picked up, there was a part of that was I wasn't allowed to talk to her because I was on probation for 5 or so years. However, that whole time from, you know, 2015 when I had the charge, and, you know, I think 2017 we've been communicating the whole time, and we were co-parenting, pickup schedules, what's going on with Lena. We had to talk. We did it anyway. So we were having mutual conversations back and forth that whole time. Now, fast forward back to when I moved, she had filed for emergency custody, and then as I went down to fight the motion that she had filed, and I went to the courts and I went to the police station and everything, trying to fight it, saying, look, I just moved. She actually called my probation officer and said, we've been communicating the whole time. And actually, it's funny because the evidence that she sent in to my probation officer, it actually, it was very one-sided. It was 4 text messages from just me. So in her effort to make it seem one-sided, to keep her name good. But, I presented evidence later that we've been talking the whole time. Not that it did any good. They still sentenced me to like 6 months, and I missed my final hearing, and they dismissed my case, which really fucking sucked. So anyways, I did my 6 months. I went for that probation violation, and I went back to court and I started fighting her, and I was having a little bit of a harder time. They started me off in supervised visitation. Eventually I got home visits, but at that point, I went through a whole different situation, which unfortunately I'm not going to talk about today. But my point is that the family court system, it's designed to split families apart when it should be designed to bring families together. If this country wasn't so focused on, man versus woman, straight versus gay, black versus white, Catholic versus Muslim, race versus race, whatever. If we came together and actually supported each other and worked together, the country wouldn't be in the state it is in. Actually, more than likely, our government would probably collapse because the government makes so much money off racism and sexism and pitting parents against each other and splitting people up. You're talking about the family courts alone make so much fucking money off people fighting for custody that, of course, they don't want things to change. They make money from the federal government. The counties make money from the federal government for every parent that they put on child support. They don't want people to have equal rights to their kids, and not to mention all the lawyers and guardian ad litems and prosecutors that make money off of everything. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar industry just designed, profiting and making money and providing jobs to these people just strictly on people fighting and people splitting apart. Kids are growing up in broken homes without 2 parents, and it just sickens me. Just because you guys may not be together, you may not be in a good relationship or good for each other, that doesn't mean that you can't co-parent and work together for the child. And that's better than fighting and hating each other and arguing all the time. And the kids, I went through it. I was separated from my parents when I was 2. My dad went to prison, and I'm not going to sit here and say my dad was a saint. He was a pretty rough guy. My mom was deemed unfit, and I was placed in foster home up in Michigan, which it sucked. I spent until I was like 13. And my dad, the whole time, he was trying to fight for me, get full custody of me after he got out of prison. I don't really remember my mom much. I know that it affected me growing up without a mom. And I do want to make that very clear that moms are just as important as dads. But they're both important. And even though my dad had a criminal history and, even though he had a drug problem, he was still my dad. I loved my weekends with him. I loved my summers with him. And I honestly, he was the best dad that I could ask for. Yeah, he had his flaws, but who doesn't? You know. So even having a parent in your life as a kid, and this is me going through this and knowing from experience, even having a parent that's a little fucked up or has some issues is better than having no parent at all. Because I tell you what, growing up without a mom affected me more deeply than my dad only being in my life for every other weekend and summers. And my mom, she was actually raped and murdered when I was 7. So I have very few memories of her. And I did lose my dad when I was 15. He died of an overdose. So that is what it is. And and the foster care system's broken too. I grew up from 2 to 13. My windows were boarded up. I was locked in my room all the time. The only time I really got out was for school or to visit my dad. And there was a whole investigation with child services where they finally came in after me telling the school over the period of years. And then finally, I actually tried to break out of the room that they kept me in. And, they had the nerve to call the police on me. And there was this big investigation. Child services found out that, I was being neglected and whatnot. And I was placed as a ward of the state. But my point is that I don't want my daughter to grow up in a broken home. I don't want my daughter. I want to give my daughter better than what I had. So parental rights is very important to me. It's very close to my heart. It's an issue that I personally have dealt with almost all my life. And what's fucked up is that the system is so geared towards women. Did you know that in divorces in Ohio, that when you get divorced, it's custom or it's tradition or normal, whatever you want to call it. It's automatic that they file a restraining order against the two parties, even if they're getting along. Tell me that's not obviously showing that the system is designed to split us apart and put us against each other. If we're so focused on hating each other, hating, our kid's mom, hating our kid's dad, hating black people or gay people or whatever, we're too focused on what's going on in our personal life and personal situation that we don't, the government gets away with whatever they want. If we came together, this country could accomplish so much. And it's just sad. And even I remember filing for a protection order down in the county I was fighting for my kid. And the paperwork that I had to fill out was, when did you break up with him? What was the result? Or were you pregnant at the time when he abused you? Or, it was all geared towards women. It was he. When did he do this to you? Not, there was no paperwork for men at all. The whole system is geared. It's a mom system. It's a system, as she said, he said. And that's another thing, the whole court system, the way that, people are able to make allegations or accusations or, use hearsay as evidence, it's a constitutional clusterfuck. There's no way else to put it. And I've had to deal with this for the last 5 years, and more recently, I had I was in a relationship in 2018 and I got a girl pregnant. And, she was, I got a call from the visitation center. Um, I had let my girlfriend drop my kid off. And I got a call from the visitation center saying, hey, your girlfriend's not allowed to drop your kid off anymore. I was like, why? Well, she was strung out. She was high. I'm very anti-drugs. I have never even smoked pot. So, I confronted her, when she came back, and because she was 3 months pregnant with my kid. And naturally I found out that, she was using. And we got in a big argument about it. Police got called. Of course, I got arrested. But that's another topic that I'll delve into after this. And I haven't even met my other daughter. But me and Lena, I've been real active in my daughter's life, and she loves me. She loves me to death. She doesn't understand why she can't see her daddy, because daddy's always been good to her. Daddy's always treated her like a princess, and it's very hurtful for her and hurtful for me. I feel like such a failure as a father, watching, letting people keep my kid from me. I'm supposed to be invincible. I'm supposed to be her hero. I'm supposed to never let anything keep us apart and always be there for her to protect her. And I'm watching my kid, cry to her mom that, why can't I see daddy? If you don't like daddy, just stay home. I want daddy to come to my birthday party. Why won't you let me see my dad? And, of course, she doesn't take any responsibility for it. She pawns it off on the courts now. So it's like, it's not me that's keeping my kid from you. But, we could go into mediation at any time, and you could give me my equal rights. We don't have to, she takes advantage of the court system. And here's where I really realized that it was all about power control. Because in 2018, after my second round of criminal charges, I got out of jail. And for about a year, I spent trying to get my life back together, get a job, get my own place, get a car, whatnot. And she was letting me see Lena whenever. She was letting me go to the park with her. She was letting me, see her at church. And, her church people were very welcoming and, wanted me to keep coming back. And we went to play baseball and we did all kinds of stuff. She was letting me talk to her on the phone. And then I filed for shared parenting after I got all my stuff again together. And she actually cut contact off for like 5 months. And then our first hearing after those 5 months, she's like, well, he's a felon. He's got all this criminal history. I don't feel like he's fit to be a father. If that was such a concern, why, when the courts weren't involved, why were you even letting me see my kid? I mean, that I'm a good dad, but I really wanted to do this video today to kind of talk a little bit about my situation. It's been very hard on me, and I'm not going to lie. It has been the most painful and frustrating thing I've ever been through. And before, I started channeling all that anger and hurt into a good cause and starting helping people. I ended a 10-year career in welding to focus on helping people, helping drug addicts, helping people getting out of prison, or helping parents, helping needy families, helping kids. And I've channeled all my hurt and anger into this cause, and it's done amazing for how I handle things. Because before I was just lashing out, I was fighting, I was angry, like, who the fuck has the right to keep my kid from me? Just like any parent that goes through this. And it was taking a toll on my life. I want anybody to know that who's going through the same things that I'm going through, who um, may be going through a custody battle or hasn't seen their kid in a while, that you're not alone. There are so many people going through the same thing. And, you can always look me up and call me if you need somebody to talk to or you need some help. There's resources out there to support you. There are. So many times I felt like there was no escape, like that it was hopeless. And, I'd sit here at night alone and miss my daughter, and it was just, it's hard. It is hard. Um, I think had I not found a outlet to pour all this hurt into, I probably wouldn't be here today. And there are a lot of people who do battle with suicide and struggle with suicidal thoughts out there that are going through this. And I want you to know that never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. And if you ever feel like you're about to give up and that there's no hope and that you can't fight anymore, I want you to pull out a picture of your kid and I want you to think to yourself, do you want your kid to think of you as somebody who gave up or somebody who did whatever it took, who fought to be in their life? And that applies to anything. If you're battling with addiction and or you keep finding yourself getting into trouble with the law, use your kid as your motivation. Because I know one thing, my daughter, Lena Jewel, she will never, ever feel like her dad did not fight for her. I will tear this entire system down brick by brick and rebuild it for my kids if I have to. My daughter will never feel like I didn't fight for her. My daughter will never feel like daddy gave up on her. Because I look at that little girl and I've never loved anything so much. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And the system doesn't help. They enable people to be able to get protection orders on hearsay, with no evidence. Did you know that you can get a protection order against somebody if you file for a protection order and you make your allegation or whatever, and the other person doesn't show up, it's automatically granted. So you could go to a different state and file for a protection order, and of course the other parent might not be able to get off work to go to the hearing to defend himself and get a protection order, and that automatically restricts your access to, if you guys got kids together, it's going to hurt your case if you and that's what's fucked up, is that there's no amount of evidence that's needed. If that other person shows up, you're fucked. They're going to grant the protection order. It just blows my mind how the system is tearing families apart. It's creating broken homes, and you know what? And here's what's fucked up, is that it's not the moms, it's not the dads that are hurting the most. It's affecting our kids. So we need to wake up and take a stand and stand up for equality, especially when it comes to the family court systems. Thank you guys for watching this with me today.